Kira, knowing your phenomenal past and your experience as an athlete, naturopath, and you will tell me in a second the difference between naturopath and nutritionist, and being phenomenal mom and a wife, you have competed with everything that you have going on in your life in many athletic events, especially Ironman, full and halves. And that takes a lot of energy. That takes extraordinary preparation and awareness of what needs to be done. After you will tell us a few words, what is the difference between naturopath and nutritionist, I would like you to address what are the biggest mistakes people do preparing into endurance events of this nature, of an Ironman or half marathon and marathon, that you have heard about and have experienced as a practitioner.
Yeah, so good question. So I find the biggest thing is people don't take care of their basics. It's like they don't, if you're planting a garden, you got to take care of your soil first. And it's not just about throwing seeds in and growing big crops. You got to make sure all the right building blocks are there moving forward for training. So I find people don't, they have their coach and they do all their exercise and they have an expensive bike or whatever sport they're doing, their expensive equipment, and they don't spend the time or the energy looking at the basics of their nutrition. So whether it's, they'll go and have, 35 different supplements rather than just one or two key ones. They don't look at their nutrition pre or post training or doing a longer event. They'll even not focus on how to fuel themselves during training properly. And but the biggest thing would be fueling after training and just getting the right balance to their diet, knowing what's right for them for their recovery, because I find people don't take the time and the energy for recovery, and recovery is as important as the fitness.
Sure, I would even say, we train as good the next time as well as we recovered. Or
Absolutely.
You train and can train as hard as smartly you can recover.
Yeah. But people don't do it, and people doing endurance sport tend to be, very passionate people. I want to, type A or, high achievers, and they're working and family and sport. And, this is not the professional athletes, although they're juggling a lot too. And they're just not taking that time to nurture. And you can push yourself for a few years, but then the wheels fall off, or it's all going to break down and you're going to have injury and exhaustion. And yeah, it's the foods to recover, it's the micronutrients to recover, and then it's the rest and sleep, and whether it's yoga or meditation or just letting the body heal to build a better body moving forward. And I think that's a third of the situation, but nobody talks about that.
Tell me, what is your number one food that you give your athletes? And I know you've worked with elite and recreationals that you prepare for those events. Number one food that you would recommend for those that are afraid of a weight gain, that no matter where they are in their preparation, you would say you must have post elongated workout? What would that be?
Well, I'm a fan. I mean, there's all the different styles of eating, and there's high fat, low carb, and there's medium carb, and there's, your vegans and your vegetarians and your paleo, like there's everything. So it's a bit of a juggle to say there's one food. The world needs to eat more vegetables, but we know that, but there's still nobody's doing it, right? So your dark green leafy greens, your really potent vegetables. But the one thing people need to be doing sport is they need to be eating a good recovery meal. And there's theory about how soon you should be eating your recovery meal. Do you have to eat it within that window or not? Well, if you're doing a hard amount of training, it's definitely going to benefit that you have that great recovery meal after training. And again, it depends on what style of eating you're doing, but some people, there needs to be the carbs in that post-training, unless you're doing ketogenic, and that's another talk for itself. But you need the carbs with that little bit of protein. We know the body needs that for recovery. So, I'm often looking at, it depends on what style of training they're doing. People are on a 4-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein. Others I've got on a 3-to-1. Others I have on a 1-to-1. but they need to be there for that glycogen synthesis and help with the protein modeling. And, you know, it needs to be there. Everyone gets too focused on the protein after training and not the carb. And there's nobody on the planet, again, unless you're doing ketogenic, but I'm not going to say that again, there's nobody on the planet that doesn't like carb, truly, deep down.
And you know what, by the end of the day, it's the carbohydrates is not going to hurt you. And especially if you are training hard.
Not after training.
Yes. So I understand the meal. I know that Uber Health has its own exactly perception about protein, carbs, and fats. And I've seen your programs. They're phenomenal. And people that are watching us, and if they're endurance athletes, they should absolutely go to Uber Health, your website, which will give them the link to access and literally get familiar with your expertise and your systems. But for those that are listening right now, what is your number one carbohydrates from either grains or simple carbs that you recommend? And then do you prefer to go to fruits?
Oh, I think it depends on each person. You know, I'm a celiac, so I'm a true gluten-free kind of girl. So I tend to, when we're looking at simple carbs or, you know, fast digesting carbs, I am a white rice fan, sweet potato fan. If we want to move to fruits, you know, there's nothing better than a banana, or I'm a big fan of dates, good medjool dates, you know, and, but those are your fast digesting, you know, that's the stuff you want for that quick recovery. Yeah, grain wise, I guess. Yeah, I'm a rice. I find so easy for most people, whichever style of rice they like. That's probably my go-to grain. You know, but other grains work for other people. Yeah, it's very rare you meet somebody that doesn't like rice.
Tell me, besides carbohydrates and people perception that carbs are bad for you and you shouldn't have them, what are the most ridiculous statements you have heard as a practitioner, especially now? Let's switch from endurance to the kind of a weight loss, because we both know there are probably people that are coming to you that want to do both. They want to lose weight, they want to participate in a, you know, pretty extensively, you know, physically involved event. So what are the biggest really mistakes and preconception that they have about weight loss? Give me like top 3 max. I don't need more.
I think people thinking that they have to basically stop eating or they can't have any carbohydrates in a weight loss plan. And, you know, going back to carbohydrates, you know, fruits and vegetables are carbohydrates, and everyone gets confused about that. And I know that sounds really simple for the people that know, but yeah, people being so afraid of carbohydrates after training. And it's, you know, and you almost have to use their language, which I don't always think is the healthiest language, but I'm like, you've earned the right to, you know, have more carbohydrates and enjoy it without fear. Because, you know, we talked about this offline earlier, is there's that whole, am I scared to eat this food and how is it going to react to my body, versus joy of getting to eat something and letting go of guilt. So that's probably the biggest thing I try to change in people's mindset, whether that's their myth in their own head. It's about when they can have carbohydrates and not, you know, you can't overeat anything, but if you're trying to lean down, but it's learning to have that joy to food again rather than fear. What else are the crazy things? Working with women in weight loss, because we are the tougher of the sexes when it comes to losing weight, and it's a lot slower. I think women doing tons of fasted training and trying to do, you know, intermittent fasting is so huge at the moment. And I'm a fan of intermittent fasting, but it's got to be done right for women if you're a female. And what's being pushed out there and some of the research is a lot more male dominant. And male bodies versus female bodies operate really differently with high cortisol levels. And when we hit high cortisol, you know, the wheels fall off and the weight goes on. And so it's about these big fad diets or fashionable pop diets, I like to call them, the pop of, you know, popular thing of the moment, and women thinking, oh, I can do this, but it's been it's been done on men, not women, and misunderstanding that their bodies are going to react really differently.
Well, and that is a very valuable, key that we need to emphasize. Our bodies, because of the hormonal, imbalances we go through, reacts completely different. And unfortunately, the research is forced towards men because of that. Researchers do not want to face the, unpredictable.
Oh,
what else may come up? And
let's call it dynamic. We're dynamic.
Yes, and we're so diverse inside. You got
fluctuatingly dynamic.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Go ahead,
there's
please.
Rules now. Different countries are bringing in rules around needing to include women in studies and actually dividing down the information and statistics on what's happened to the women versus the men in studies. So we are getting there. Until 1970 or 1971, women weren't even required to be in any clinical trials.
Are you serious?
No, not at all. So it's changing. There's a huge movement at the moment on that. But back to weight loss. So those are my two biggies. My third myth of weight loss. I've gone blank. Oh my God, there's so many though. There's so many silly things out there.
How many times have you heard I shouldn't eat at all?
I shouldn't eat at all.
Yeah, have you heard that one?
Oh yeah, well, like fasting and yeah, or just skipping, or the myth I don't, is like super low calorie diets, like 1,200 calories a day. It's not sustainable forever, and that's a bit of a myth. Oh, kind of gone blank. Sorry. There's a million of them, different things.
It's especially when you don't think about this, things are coming.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. That we need to snack all the time.
Oh,
it drives me crazy. The body types that don't need to lose weight probably can snack all the time. The tiny little powered, high energy people, they're burning it up and they need it. But those are not my weight loss clients. My weight loss clients are the bigger body types. If we want to talk, chronobiology and ectomorph, endomorph, mesomorph, and you don't need to be fueling all the time. There is beautiful research about letting that 4 to 5 hour window go. And, I'm not saying you have to intermittent fast, but we don't need to be eating all the time. And people mentally think they need to have a snack at 10 and at 2, especially if they're office workers. And then they have their snack and they have their milky coffee, which in my opinion, a milky coffee is a snack. Yeah.
Well, what goes inside, it's like a double, calories. We both love coffee, and we talk about this quite a lot. But we both agree that 2 cups is plenty. If you are looking especially for any kind of a stimulant, we drink it because we like it, not because we have to. Huge difference.
But also depends, the whole issue with coffee, there's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of negatives.
Sure.
But it also really depends on, are you a fast coffee metabolizer or not? And there's a lot more issues for the people who have slow coffee metabolism, and you can genetically get that tested. And I like genetic testing, but it's not the be all to end all. It's 10% of the situation. But if you're a fast caffeine metabolizer, 2 cups is nothing.
What tests can people do to find out? Because I know that we will get that question after what you just said.
Yeah. Oh, look, well, I'm in Australia, so I probably have different companies that I use than over in the US. Sure. But there are starting to be genetic testing companies where it's not about your ancestry, but it can look at all your different, there's ones that, will give you a sports profile.
We have Genova here and a few other ones. Mm-hmm.
Food profile. Do you have MTHFR, SNP, issues and things like that? So I probably use different companies down here, but they are around and they're just interesting to add to the equation. I don't live my life by genetic testing by any means. It's going to tell me if I have lots of fast twitch or slow twitch, but I already know that from playing sport my whole life.
Sure. And speaking of that, exactly, do you believe fast twitch and slow twitch should be eating specifically based on what exactly is predominant in their body?
That's a good question. Um, should they? I think we should be eating dependent on the fitness and the sport we're doing, rather than do we have slow or fast twitch. But each person has that individual variation of, are they a good carb burner? Are they a good fat burner? Do we want to change the diet to teach their body to be a better fat burner? We can do that. I think everyone should be on a sliding scale and readjust constantly, especially women per decade of their life. It's a difference, what I eat in my 40s versus what I eat in my 20s is a totally different game, unfortunately.
Well, that's true. We talked about this a little bit offline
Yeah.
because based on one of your posts, it was remind me what the quote exactly said about every year. It's you are gaining. How did you say it? Your post said, I need to bring it up. Give me a second. I need to go to Uber Health because it was so brilliant, and I think it will be perfect if we bring it up.
I love posts. I love little quotes. My quote recently, I mean, they're not all my quotes. I found them from other people, but was around, genetics is the gun, and your lifestyle loads the gun, right? That kind of a thing. But no, I think you're talking about something else. But every 5 years, our bodies, we're just starting to understand about our bodies and how they're changing all the time. And the hormone profile for women, especially in sport, I'd love to train 20 hours a week at the moment and do Ironman, but where I'm at right now in my 40s, my body's not letting me do that. So I've got to go back and listen to how hard can I push it? Where are my cortisol levels? What is my body trying to do? And, it's amazing how much more sensitive my body is to stress now than in my 20s. I was living a really healthy life as a naturopath nutritionist, doing a lot of Ironman sport, but, my recovery is very different these days.
I know what you said. We should start referring to age as level.
Oh, yes.
Because I'm level 43. Sounds more badass than being an old person. It was about the levels.
That's so true. I'm actually, I think the quote said 43. I'm going to fess it. I'm 49. And I'm almost 50. And level 50. That sounds awesome.
Exactly. See, there is like a joy. My husband always makes fun of me. He was like, you old. I'm like, what does it mean? I'm like, you're
wise.
You act and as old as you decided to be, because I take care of my body better now than I did in my 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're wiser. You've collected information and knowledge and turned it into wisdom. And I'm a lot nicer to myself in each decade in some ways.
No, I am too. And I think, this kind of goes back to what you mentioned. And I talked to, actually from, like I mentioned to you, from food psychology clinic in UK. And we were talking about the mindset and what joy and perception we have to bring into whatever you eat, if it's a junk food or healthy food, to really support your metabolism and support the digestion and your gut health versus going against yourself and generating more stress.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, what are your thoughts on, I'm trying to think what to throw at you.
All right. I'm going to tell a story while you're thinking.
Yeah.
So you and I we met at a conference originally.
Yes.
And standing in line with each other, but then we quickly realized we needed to go get coffee together. And I eat very healthy. I'm gluten-free. I have my treats and my chocolate and whatever. And I'm not dairy-free, but I'm very low dairy. Although when I want dairy, I really enjoy it. But my guilty pleasure that brings absolute joy, and I know you know, is I love, in Australia we call it a long black. In America you would say an Americano. I love just pure black coffee, and I drink black coffee all the time. But if I can access it, I don't mind a bit of whipped cream on my coffee, right? Like just pure whipped cream. And people freak out when I order it. And they're like, you can't do that. It's so many calories. It's all fat. And I'm like, no, it's pure bliss for me. And it makes me feel fantastic. And that's my thing. I don't do it all the time, but and I remember convincing you to get whipped cream.
I remember when we did that, and my rationale is always, anything with fat absorbs better.
Oh yeah,
And we needed it so bad. It was
yeah,
such a long event, but so joyful. And I've met beautiful people, and you are one of very
yeah,
few I'm still in touch.
yeah,
So I appreciate that. Good story. Yeah. Good,
yeah.
joyful, not full of guilt moment.
Oh no, gosh.
Really
And
nice.
every sip when I have my cream, it's divine. Who cares?
Yeah,
It's
no,
not about being perfect, right? If you said to me, you could never have alcohol again, okay, I'll miss my red wine, but I couldn't, like, really, it does. Yeah. There's so many things you have to choose. But, I realized the other day, and this goes back to food myths and people and eating. No, 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 it's so much of a myth, but I'm a massive fan of a food diary.
sure.
Just tracking your food for like a week, just so you know what you're doing, whether you want to write it or you want to take photos, because we are never honest with ourselves about what we actually eat. And clients aren't honest with me either, right? It's like, they're just not, especially with portions and little treats. And so I will often get people to do that. And I realized my idea of cheat meals or binges, it's not a world's greatest word, but refeeds or whatever athletes want to call them when they let loose and have stuff. Me letting loose is like, you know 85 grams of chocolate or something. I'm like, oh my God, that was, I don't want to do the guilt. I just want to do the pleasure. And people, I hit a group of other nutritionists recently, and they're like, what do you mean 100 grams? That's like a normal thing to eat. They were like, I would do 500. I was like, what? So it's everyone's concept of what's okay and not. And I know that's not a myth, but it's everyone's portion control, everyone's awareness of what they do. And I think we create our own myths mentally versus what we truly physically put in our bodies.
Yeah, and I think
Does that make any sense?
no, it does. But you know what? Even when you think into consideration, there could be body-wise 100. Let's just drop it at kind of a full number. 125 petite female, skinny, unhealthy because she's maybe, you know what? I don't know, 6 feet tall, and then you have a 5'4", 5'5" that is very fit and strong and it's 125. This is the same weight, different look, different health perception, different image, and different probably way how they care about themselves and have the perception of themselves, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's not, I've heard the terminology from other people and they talk about a skinny fat person,
Yeah.
or a skinny unhealthy person. It's yeah. I think there's not enough, and because of social media and fashion and whatever, we have these ideal body types, but really we are all born with such different body types. I'm almost 5'10". I'm built like like a female Viking. That's my ancestry. And it's a different situation. Me at 135 pounds versus you at 135 pounds would be crazy.
I mean, it would literally be hurting me and I would feel it on my joint. Not that I wouldn't like the look, I wouldn't like to feel that weight on me. It would make me really tired. For you, it would be like,
I'd be anorexic.
Yeah, I would give you, hey, here's some money, go and eat.
Go have some donuts.
Yeah, and bring me one too.
Yeah.
So tell me, misconceptions.
Yeah.
That is needed to lose weight. Can we please talk about this a little bit?
Misconceptions. Misconceptions is about starvation. It's about dropping all carbs.
No. I actually want to think and say a few words about people don't realize that they need fat to lose fat.
Oh, yes. And you need all your macronutrients in some ways. And again, ketogenic is a different thing, and I'm pro ketogenic in the right time and place, but I want to kind of leave that alone for today. Being scared of all carbohydrates and being, phobic of a macronutrient is just, it's crazy. And fear of food. We have so much of that going on.
Exactly. I don't think it's a fear of macronutrients. I think it's a misconception and lack of understanding the purpose of them in your body.
Yeah,
Because if
absolutely.
people understood that, biochemistry that takes place underneath the skin that they just see, but they don't think of the all miles and gallons of different liquids technically, and especially blood that is taking pretty much traveling through our body and allows us to be energetic on a daily basis. We don't pay attention to the important things that really fuel us on a deeper level and allows us to be energetic.
It's one of the things I lecture in Bachelor of Science in some schools in Australia, and Bachelor of Nutrition. And one of the interesting things is you can study all of that, and then you get to sports nutrition, and I basically attack weight loss via sports nutrition, because you have to be exercising to lose weight properly as well. And so that's kind of I don't have this classic weight loss plan. I'm more weight loss via sports nutrition principles. And the first thing I teach people is, how does your body use fuel in the aerobic system versus the anaerobic system? And where does it actually need carbohydrates? Where can it burn fats? And it's amazing how people don't understand fuel usage, or how that beautiful little engine in your cells, the mitochondria, burns nutrients and what it wants, and why its health is important for burning carbs and fats, and getting good blood flow to the muscle. Oh my God, there's so much biochemistry that if people understood, they'd be better at knowing what to eat.
I think at some point, it will be nice to break down this for people, because I truly believe, and I do not want to sound rude at this point, Kira, but I think people in nowadays are so superficial, and they forget how sophisticated systems we have underneath our skin that need to be nurtured. It's not about the clothing. I understand people want to feel good, but we feel good on a daily basis, thankfully, especially it starts with our perception of who we are and how we value ourselves. If clothing makes you feel better about yourself, great. But remember that what you generate inside, your clothing has no effect on.
Yeah. Well, and proper nutrition means proper energy levels. And I'm not talking hype energy from caffeine or pre-workout supplements. You fuel yourself properly, you will have, and deal with your stress and your sleep, you will have such better energy levels that you will feel better. That's the true health on that inside. And I think people don't value, talking about clothing versus food. One of the arguments I have a lot with people is getting them to spend the money on good quality food and good nutrient dense food, or say there is a certain bar that I like because my client can't get out to food. And so we try to find them the healthiest kind of sports bar to have as a snack. And, I remember showing these bars to a client, and they're not cheap. They were like $5, but that's their meal. I'm not saying I do meal replacements, but it was just, if you're stocked. And then they went off to the grocery store and I'm well aware of everything that's being sold. They took photos of these other bars that were $1.50 a bar. And they're like, can I do this one instead? And I was like, no, put it back. That's junk, and they came in the next time and we were talking about other foods. And she was so afraid to spend money on quality food. Yet she's a lawyer and dressed to the nines because she has to be. But I actually sat down and said to her, you need to value your body. You need to value, you are worth the money for real food.
That is so interesting, to the point that I almost want to take another video with you and other female, experts and practitioners about seriously how much money we spend on a clothing. And whoever is watching right now, and it's a female or a male, it doesn't matter from the gender, we all spend money on superficial materialistic things. Some of us more, some of us less. I would ask literally right now someone to take a piece of paper and write it down how much on a regular basis they spend money of things that don't really affect their nutrition and the way how they feel.
Yeah. Well, nutrition and food quality, because you can buy such different quality. It's like people that buy supplements from the grocery store and wonder why they're like, oh, I've taken magnesium, I can't feel any difference. Like, that's probably because you took an indigestible tablet. And you get what you pay for. We know that.
Oh, do you know what? Thank you for saying it. I coach even elite athletes who's like, well, the company sent me a free stuff. I'm like, just because it's free, it doesn't mean it's good for you or you should take it. There's many things free that people try to push me and give it to me. And I'll say, no, thank you. That's very generous of you, but I don't want to. If I will buy something, it has to be a quality because it's going inside of my body and it fuels me for the rest of the day. And thank you for bringing that up, because quality supplements are not cheap supplements.
No, they're not, but they're worth it. And you need less, right? I have people come in and they're like, I'm on these 15 different supplements. And I'm like, I'd like to pull you back to 3, but I think that's,
Do you think that do you think that your systems work because you're really honest with people and you don't put up with too much crap?
Oh no, there's no bullshit with me. I'm quite mean at times, actually. Not mean like make you cry, but I'm known for how blunt I am. There's no fluff going on with me.
I think we get along very well because of that. It's just, and then my harsh accent comes out and people are like, oh my God, it's too much. And I'm like, no, it's really not. It's just a pure honesty is coming out. If a man said that, you would have no problem with that.
Yeah. Well, and you got to remember, I'm in Australia with an American accent, right? So my American bluntness also comes out.
I love it. So why, besides the fact that you're bold, straightforward, why else do you think your systems actually work and people do see the change? They go through transformation, and not only they really get their goals when it comes to weight loss, but also they go through transformation, Kira. I know you're a phenomenal coach where you take psychology and perception of themselves into consideration. So they just become healthier people by the end of the day. Why do you think it is?
Because I make it easy and I make it simple and there's no tricks and there's no bullshit, but it's getting people back to basics. But why I think I have such good success is because I teach my clients why I'm asking them to do something, whether it's how the body works biochemically or why things are going to be different if they change. And I think if you teach somebody why, then they can incorporate it into an understanding of why I'm asking them to do it. So I always make a joke, if I'm not finished with a client in 2 to 3 appointments, as long as they've been listening, I'm not doing my job, because I'm teaching them to take care of themselves. I'm not telling them what to do to keep them dependent on me. And that's the big difference.
Love it.
Right? Yes, it's not good business sense. My clients will go away, but you know what? They'll go away and be really happy and learn, and then they'll tell other people. So in the end, I don't have these clients for years and years and years dependent on me. They'll call me back, a year or 2 later when they want to tweak, change something else. But no, I need to be done with them pretty quick. Otherwise, I've failed.
Independence. Love it. I always say it. It's 100% on you. When I'm done with you, whatever we go through and whatever we're coaching and speaking about, it's once we're done, I expect you to have what it takes and all your toolbox filled with the tools that you need to succeed.
Yeah, it's like giving somebody food or teaching them to farm. Yeah, and I want to give them the seeds so that they know how to farm really good health, right? And that's what it's about.
Love it. That's a great actually statement. I really appreciate that. Yeah. I think that, you know what, again, it comes to communication and purpose in life. But you had such a phenomenal, you've been an honest coach, an honest athlete, an honest female with yourself for so many years that comes naturally to you. And hopefully people will only appreciate it and learn from the conversation that be true to yourself. Don't be dependent on other people. You have what it takes. Just pay attention to small details and to fundamentals.
Yeah, fundamentals. It's all about the basics. There are no fancy tricks. There are no miracle cures. It's, there's some things that will make you feel a lot better, but in general, it's the ritual and the habit of health that are going to have the biggest impact long term.
Listen, last question, my dear friend. What is your favorite change you've applied as a practitioner in your life in the last even year? And I know you went through some transformation, so I know you can do more than one, but the one that really made a difference, how you approach your health.
That's a good question. If we're talking in the last year, my biggest thing was having to, instead of pushing forward with fitness and training, I ran into a health issue where I had to take 5 months off training last year due to an immune system issue. And so the biggest thing was surrendering to what my body was asking for rather than what my mind and my ego wanted. And that hurt. But the surrender was really, I just had to I had to let go and rest. And, I feel a lot stronger for the rest in the end.
And, thank you for sharing, because Kira, how many people could let go of something that really is not that valuable, and how much more they gain when they let it go?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, fitness is super valuable for me, but it's not what my body's asking for. Yeah.
It's paying attention to the things that will allow you. And by now you can go and, perform probably another marathon if you want to at this point. I truly believe
6 months.
But I think you are capable, to achieve whatever your mind really desires. And the fact that you took some time off and you listened to your body and you had that balanced conversation makes me really happy as your friend.
Yeah. Well, what your mind and your ego want versus what your actual physical body want are not always very congruent. And that hasn't happened to me a lot in life. And it happens to a lot of my clients, and we work through it. So it's interesting, it's interesting what you get thrown for your own body to learn about dealing with clients, right?
And it was probably nice to apply your own system to your own life.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was good. It was good in the end. But yeah, I'm out the other side, so it's easier to say it was good.
Tell me someone who went through so many transitions, because life threw so many curveballs at you, and moving so many times from one country to another. I think last year, did you do it twice?
What moving?
Moving back and forth, back and forth.
Oh, I live in Australia. I moved to Canada about 4 years ago. High stress hit for family reasons. I moved back to Australia. I've been here 2 years now, but yeah, I internationally travel 4 or 5 times a year, which also isn't great on a physical body to come from, everywhere is far away from Australia. There's nothing that is less than a 15-hour flight to North America, or don't even ask me about how long it takes to get to Europe.
It was not a bad idea, that's for sure. Tell me, what is the one advice you would give to another person who has a high stress or a highly active lifestyle to really decrease their stress and to become a healthier version of themselves in 2019? What would it be? One advice.
Recovery. I really think it's about recovery. Recovery is deep, good, valuable nutrition, deep nutrients to assist the body in recovery, and sleep. It's all about those stress levels, and I keep seeing it again and again with myself or with clients. And, if you're a high achiever, we're used to jamming up the stress because then we get stuff done. But in the end, it's just chinking away at us, and learning to find our busy without finding high stress, sympathetic dominance.
I like it. Even, I'm currently not traveling, as as much as I did in last year, when it was like 4 times a week I was on the plane.
Yeah,
it was insane, but I absolutely agree with you. That's what I always, teach to athletes. Recovery, as you know, I've developed a product because of thinking of a
It's
recovery.
specific. Yeah.
Very about, what happens after we go through a full day of working in the office. What happens when we travel? What happens when we're done with the workout? That's what matters to me more than
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and if you don't recover in the end, you can't do the workout again. Right. And I think that recovery in all those facets, physically, mentally, emotionally, that's where our focus needs to be. There's if you go back hundreds of years, when in medicine, we have this term called convalescence. Have you heard that term in
No,
English? Convalescence?
no.
I don't know what it would be for you, but it's so to convalesce is to rest and recover. And before we had old folks home or where seniors go to live, we had what were known as convalescent. To me, when I grew up, we had convalescent homes, which was, I thought, where you went when you were old. But if you go back in medicine, it's not. When people were sick, the sick portion of the whole journey is only the first third. So say you were sick for 2 weeks, really acutely. You then were sent off to a sanitarium or a convalescent hospital. Convalescent means to take recovery. And so you would do, you were sick for 2 weeks, and then that's only a third of it. So for another 4 weeks, you went and recovered. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the whole healing process really took 2/3 more time than the acute sickness phase. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Like 1 week sick, then needs 2 weeks recovery. I'm not saying people can't train and stuff like that, but when does anybody take recovery, right? We just don't, people would have life-threatening lung diseases, and then they got sent to the seashore to take recovery for a few months, to let the body, if we don't rest, the body doesn't heal. Or if we don't give it the right nutrients in recovery, it struggles to heal.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
And our busy world doesn't allow for convalescence.
I like that. Convalescence. I learned something.
That's my new thing.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So, Kira, do you think that it was a perfect time to say, with the convalescence that took place, years back, it's a time for many people to address that and actually accept it and embrace it in their life on a regular basis, not just on the weekends, but learn how to do it on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the ritual of daily life that needs to be healthy, not the exception to the rule. Yeah. And if you get those little rituals in early in the morning or at the end of the day, rather than being on social media or doing what you're doing, it brings those stress levels down and brings that peace. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I really do. And it's a good way to finalize our fun talk. It's always a pleasure to have you, as you know. We could probably chat for hours.
10 hours. Yeah.
Everything. And it would never end because it's interesting. It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
For, the most important part, it's really just a pure joy to speak with you. And there is so much information that you have and you share with your clients, and I value your experience and your professionalism. So let's see how people will react to our few comments that we've made through this video.
Awesome.
Let's hear their questions, what they would like to learn more about. I know you are starting pretty soon your new course. Tell me who should be taking that course.
Oh, I have two. At this point, I have 2 online programs that exist, but I'm rejigging them and tidying them up. So I have a 12-week course that's really more for practitioners wanting to upskill in sports nutrition, but on a really practical basis. Mm-hmm. And then I have because I don't take many clients privately anymore, I have like a 7-week or a 7-part series for people really wanting to nail down health and sports nutrition. But what it does is it it kind of basically is like seeing me for 2 to 3 appointments. So it's teaching you why I'm asking you to do everything and giving you meal plans and all kinds of ideas to be a healthier, fitter athlete.
Giving people the whys, the purpose, and setting them up for success.
Yeah.
All right.
Making them think about it and learn about it. Yeah. So my website, my business name is Uber Health, but my website is just kirasutherland.com.au, just so people don't get confused.
Sure. And I would absolutely suggest that not only they, of course, follow Barbara Depta or Resync products online, but absolutely go for Uber Health. Like I said, we were reading one of your fun posts about levels, gaining to different level, going and getting to different levels versus getting older.
Yep.
Just
leveling up.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Leveling up.
Yeah.
And by leveling up, bring more joy with that, not fear of losing something, but gaining more knowledge, appreciation, and actually joy as you are getting smarter and more balanced.
Yeah, very true. Well said.